Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Batman Arkham Origins New Game Plus walkthrough. This is the final offer. This is me smashing a couple of standard goons. Nothing difficult here. And this is a pretty long level compared to the other videos. This is 24 minutes of Batman goodness. And it's a pretty interesting place. And one of the things I do like about this game are the environments. While they are very reminiscent of the older games, and some of them are essentially carbon copy and pasted from the older games, they still manage to do some different environments and some different feeling locales, which is something I appreciate when I play a game that, for all intents and purposes, is very similar to a game I've already played. This game also introduces new enemies, which they're all seemingly interesting. Some of them kind of affect the flow of the combat, but I think the flow of the combat is affected by other enemies in a similar fashion, so much so that I can't really blame this game for anything that wouldn't have happened in the previous ones. And a few of you might be thinking what I mean by this. Well, a good example of Batman's combat is the lock-on is dictated essentially by where you push the analog. So for instance, if you press, up towards the guy near the weapon box, Batman, when he has a high enough combo, will fly over to the weapon box guy and punch him. The only problem is, if there's two people near that weapon box, things get a little bit more complicated, because the game will attack whichever one it thinks you pressed for. And sometimes, when enemies are very close together, Batman can attack the wrong one. And for the most, it doesn't really have any effect. But if you were to attack the wrong one and, say, attack a guy in armor, it ruins your combo. And that has a profound effect on the sway of the battle, because then you have to build it back up, and then it is trickier. One of the more annoying parts of the combat system in Batman is when you don't have any combo, Batman doesn't move. Like, there'll be a guy a yard in front of you and you'll press X to punch him, and Batman will literally do the most pansy-like jab that doesn't go anywhere near him because he doesn't move. And then when you try and walk, you realise how slow Batman is. And a good example of this is when you're in a boss fight and you're waiting to evade things and you're just moving away from the boss while he's getting ready to throw something at you or something like that. If there are any other enemies in the room that are running towards you to try and punch you, they're on you in seconds because Batman's walking around, like an old lady, and he feels sluggish and slow because he is. And in battle, this is complemented somewhat by the fact that he bounds around like a psychopath once you get his combo up to a certain height. I think it's +3 when he starts doing the gymnastics. But back on the tangent we were saying is obviously when Batman's flying around the room and there's a ton of guys, and this game is probably the densest the enemies have ever been in my experience, because you fight them in pretty small rooms quite a lot, and a lot of the bigger encounters are just as big, if not bigger, than anything found in Arkham City. So the problem rears its head when you have these martial artists that you're going to be soon fighting. I love that move there, by the way, where Batman uses the wall. I'm not too sure if that's new or not, but there definitely seems to be context-sensitive moments next to geometry. And I think that's cool, I think that's interesting. But when you're in these big groups and you do hit the wrong one, sometimes it can be difficult to see that you've hit the wrong one. So you'll try and hit again, thinking that you're going to be bounding off him and bounding into the next target, and you're not. Instead, you're flat-footed, you stood there, and you're getting slashed by a guy with a knife or something. So there's a large variety of look in the combat, which I wish there wasn't. And in a lot of my guides, if you've paid attention to the channel, you'll notice that I talk about precision a lot. Precision is probably the thing I value most in all games. And some games don't need it. Some games are better for it. It all depends on what kind of game it is, but I personally think that every game would benefit from it. And a lot of the times there's precision in ways that you don't really notice is being all that precise, but if it wasn't there, you would significantly miss it. For instance, Fez. I've just finished playing Fez. I've had a lot of fun with that game. It was a charming and just joyful experience, which, for somebody that's been playing games as long as me, you can often get quite cynical towards releases, and it was so goddamn fun. I watched a review of it by Yahtzee, the zero punctuation guy, who's pretty famous for shitting on every game. And it's his job, so, he's intentionally trying to be hyperbolic and really crazy with his his wordplay, and he does a fantastic job of that. But one of the things he mentioned in the review, which is that it's pretty much just platforming and exploring. There's no enemies to fight, so it can make some of the backtracking pretty tedious. And the backtracking is the worst part of that game. It's handled very poorly. The structure of the levels is handled poorly, I think. But the lack of enemies is never something I missed, because the fact there are no enemies, it means it's just a pure experience. It's just you and the geometry. It's you and the platforming. It's at its finest and purest form, and I just think it's great. Much like this is great too. I have no idea that was going to happen, but I found it hilarious when it did. So the Executioner is a one-punch, one-knockout fight, and then it puts you into this death trap in the boiler deck. This is a tough encounter because it's a massive room, and you notice that guy there? He is one of the martial artists who are kicking my ass right now. So, the thing that sucks about this enemy is the only experience you're going to have fighting them comes in this game, and there's only a handful of them in the main game. But in New Game Plus, they turn up quite a lot, and you can't see the counter indicators. Something to know about this enemy is he counters attempts of takedowns, so if you try and do the double button inputs to kill him, it won't work, he'll push you away. The cool thing is, it doesn't break your combo, so you can then go on to do something else. For instance, if you go to try and do the takedown on someone else, and you grab one of the martial arts guys by accident, it will not fuck your combo, which is great news. The bad news is, he does a standard 3-hit combo that must be evaded, and if you try and attack him in it, he'll counter you. He counters a lot of different attacks, as you can see right now, and a lot of his attacks that he does to you have to be countered with 2 inputs. So the safest thing to do when you're attacking them is just assume they're going to counter every time you try and hit them. Sometimes they don't, every so often they get sloppy. You can do a beatdown on them by stunning them with the cape, you can pull them with your back claw, you can hit them with batarangs. They are susceptible to different strategies. Just be aware that when they run at you, and they run full pelt and they do the flying kick, that is 2 counters that are needed, or he'll hit you with a follow-up. This is the triple counter right there that you saw me and him dancing with. There goes the knife guy. There's a takedown in this game against knife people, which I do have, but I've never got it to work. Like, the command says tap, but on the knife evade it says hold. So, like, I've tried, holding Y, moving away from the knife, and then after I moved away from the knife, I've tried tapping Y, and it didn't, kill him or finish him or anything. So, throughout this walkthrough, you might be wondering, why do I never do the knife dodge? I just evade. I get the hell away from them, or try and stun them, because I just don't like the knife people. I've never liked them, and I've treated them the same. I always build a combo and I kill them, and the knife goes on the floor, and if somebody picks it up, I kill them. I don't really mess about with that. And I think that comes from Arkham Asylum, which is my favourite in the series, because I just kind of dealt with them that way in that game, and I don't think that game had that fancy knife wiggly thing, which I've never been a fan of. And it's same with the stun baton guys. Throughout this guide, I'm not going to have the upgrade to break the weapons, so you're not going to see me breaking the stun batons or breaking the knives or anything, which is a super useful strategy on Arkham City, but on this game they hide that ability behind bullshit, and it's another thing that I dislike about the upgrade system. But these are very small things, guys. This is a good game. It's a fun game, and I'm getting very similar feelings as I did to the God of War Ascension game, where a lot of the reviews are mentioning, it's Batman by numbers, it's lazy Batman, it's the same thing as before, it's not new, it's kind of getting tired, and all those kind of accusations that they threw at God of War Ascension. And it's so subjective, folks. You can't just say, that it's getting old, it's getting tired, because there's a large percentage of people that don't mind it at all. And I always hark this back to Call of Duty, because Call of Duty is a very similar animal. But it's different in essence, because Call of Duty is popular because of the multiplayer. If it was just single player, Call of Duty would have died. Let's be fair. It would have died. The single player can't carry it enough because it's too short. But the multiplayer is where it's at. So let's change this to something that is single player. Assassin's Creed. I have Assassin's Creed fatigue. That does not mean that they are bad games, and it does not mean that they should not be played. It just means that I will not play them because I'm at the point where I'd rather punch myself in the face. And the frustrating part about it is, I know the good games, I know the functional games, and I know the fun games, but for some reason I get no enjoyment from them anymore. In fact, I haven't had enjoyment from that series since 2. I loved 2, and then I played, I think, Brotherhood or Revelations. I think I played them out of order, but I played it and I got bored. And then the next one was even worse. And then I played 3 and it just crushed me. I can't do it anymore, and I'll admit this. It's not for me anymore. But there are people that can't wait for Black Flag, and that's not just people with pirate fantasies, that's just people that like Assassin's Creed. And it's the same here. The Batman games are so unique and so fun that people are playing them because no one else is doing it, you know? And it's same with this. There's a lot of great stuff in this game, a lot of interesting stuff, and enough to, you know, to distance itself from the other games. There are a lot of recycled elements. There are a lot of similarities, but that's just inherent to a sequel. So when people saying that it's a disappointment as to what? What were they really expecting this studio to do? Like, Arkham City for me was such a surprise that they decided to go open world that it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. And it did so because the game itself, the linear sequence of events to beat the story, could be done extremely quickly because they put more investment in the side quests. And sure, if you play that game with the side quests included, it's a much longer experience, but they relegated certain things to side quests which would have benefited from being story quests. And it's the same thing in this game, I expect. There are 10 assassins after Batman this Christmas Eve or this New Year's Eve. I can't quite remember what day it is. I think it's Christmas Eve. Yeah, it is, because Alfred gets the turkey. So, 10 assassins after Batman. You only fight, I think, 5 of them, or 6 of them. You don't fight all of them. And I was wondering, why the hell did they mention 10 assassins when I've not killed Shiva, I've not killed... I think Deadshot's one of them, a few other people. And then it came to me. I bet you do that in side quests. And lo and behold, you do that in side quests. I watched the game trailer review, and they mentioned it. And I can understand why they've decided to do this. Because of the fatigue factor. When you're given a list of 10 names, and you have to go through levels to arbitrarily eliminate them, it can get very, you know, Batman by numbers, it can get very repetitive. It's the same model that's forcing you onwards. It's the cliched, beat the level, then beat the boss, move on to next level, which is a paradigm that's been in gaming for years. But I really don't mind that because it's disguised in enough subtle ways with, you know, environmental puzzles, bits of platforming, you know, things like that. There's a lot of things distracting you from the fact all you're doing is following a waypoint, beating up some dudes, stringing them to gargoyles, and then fighting a boss. And especially when you consider that my favourite part of this new game is the boss fights, which I think are handled beautifully, except for Bane. It's interesting. So right here, I thought I had double takedown. Apparently I don't, which is weird because I had it on the previous playthrough, so New Game Plus you would think I would keep it. Apparently not. This is a martial artist, this is a guy with a gun, and this is a heavily armoured dude. So luckily enough, I get to kill this guy, I get to kick that guy, and then I get to beat down on the martial artist who evades it. You see that? Then I counter him, and then I do the Oh, that would have been perfect, but I didn't see he was still alive. One thing I don't understand about the series in general is why you can't modify the sensitivity of the camera. I find that stunning that we've come this far and that option is not available. Especially when you're able to manipulate things like dead angles, or dead zones, sorry, not dead angles, dead zones on controllers, which is an extremely advanced part of how the controller works. And some games are giving you options to mess with those, but this game doesn't even give you the sensitivity option. But I need to talk about this fight because I hate it. I think this is the worst fight in the game. I don't think it's hard. I don't think it should really be half as challenging as it is, but the problem is the room is cluttered and the camera's bad. So there's a lot of guys here in a very small space. Some of them have knives, some of them have boxes, some of them are armoured, and they're all on you all the time. And sometimes the camera just can't keep up with it, even when you're moving it, because it's clipping on the geometry. I had a lot of trouble in this room on hard, and the luxury of that is when I came to play it on New Game Plus, it was easy. So I ended up doing it, I think, first time, and you find that a lot with games, or at least I do. So that's one of the main reasons why I play games on the hardest difficulty available when I that first try, because it extends the value for them, and it also prepares you for the future features, such as this. Like, I died in this room maybe 5 to 10 times on hard on my new game. I was playing as a Batman that wasn't upgraded as he is now, and it was also on hard, which I think is harder than New Game Plus. I really do. But at the same time, it's advertised as New Game Plus is hard. You know, it's one of the harder settings, so that's the reason the guide's done on that. But if you do play from the beginning on the tougher difficulties, you're forced to learn quicker. You're forced to overcome adversity. And it's adversity that you might not find on normal until towards the end of the game. And there's a problem with that, and the problem is you can become complacent and lazy because you've never needed to be anything else to get past. And if you do get into that position of being lazy when something challenging does turn up, it beats you up and it becomes very difficult. And a lot of people will notice difficulty spikes where they'll say the game suddenly became unfair. And sometimes it is the game. You know, sometimes it literally is the game. Games can do that. But sometimes it's the player, because the player has not adapted to the strategies needed. And this is me teabagging these enemies because I don't like this fight. And that's one of the things that I think is definitely alleviated when you do challenge yourself from the beginning. And a lot of people don't really understand that, but harder difficulties aren't for everybody. You know, it's one of those things. If you're not willing to die a few times on sections, then there's no point playing the harder difficulties from scratch. You know, if you're the type of person that turns a game off when you die, there's no point doing that. It's just not going to be fun for you. And we play games for fun, guys. That's the first reason anybody gets into games. I like to think so, anyway. But here comes another encounter. You've got to go back into the room, though. It's a weird one too, because it's two armed guards and one armoured dude. So I do the reverse DDT on that guy. I get punched by the armoured dude, which is never fun, and he has a gun, so he needs to go. And my favourite strategy on Arkham City and on this is to throw the jizz grenade, which is a glue grenade in this game. In Arkham City it was a frost grenade, because it immobilises one dude. So whenever you're in a room where there's only a few dudes, it's so powerful. Whoever you don't like, just cheese him with the grenade and just have him sit there for a while and think about his actions. But once again, on New Game Plus, they take it off you, which is really frustrating because I wanted to use that grenade a lot more than I was able to. But later on in the guide, you're going to see me use it. It's a hilarious tool. It really is. It's so many easy jokes, so many juvenile jokes can be made with it in reference to it being like sperm, but I'm going to try and do as many as I can just to honour that childish nature inside of all of us. And all you need to do here is call the elevator. But another feature on the games that I originally really liked in Arkham Asylum that comes back in this is the degradation of Batman's cape and his outfit. This game takes it kind of crazy, but it's crazy in not a good way. You know, you get very scratched on your suit gets super scratched, like you've been, you know, fighting with a litter of cats. Your cape gets tattered, it gets covered in bullet holes. Some of the bullet holes look really good until the cape deforms, and then they look shit, they look like oblong things. But towards the end of the game, there is so many holes in the cape, it just looks silly. It looks like a kid has gone to Microsoft Paint and just fucked about with different brushes. And, you know, there's no artistic merit to it, it's just madness, it's just random. And that's what it looks like. And I would much rather it be definitively damaged than all this trivial pissy bullshit that it gets. Like at the end of the game, during the final fight, I want to have half a cape. I want it to be so knackered that it looks awesome. You know, I want them to commit to it. Like, commit to it not being able to glide, or a diminished glide. Like, why does Batman get a massive hole in his knee where the fabric is torn over, or even the padding with the armor plate is like askew or in view? I want to see bare arm. I want to see his suit ripped from the shoulder. I want to see full on like face rip and stuff. Like, one of my favourite parts of Batman Returns, which is the second film with Michael Keaton as Batman, my favourite Batman, for anybody wondering, is the part at the end when he reveals to Selina Kyle that he's Batman and he rips the mask off, and it's one of the most iconic scenes in any Batman for me, because it has such a powerful memory of when I was young. And I used to draw that moment on paper, because I used to love it so much, and the music's great, and it's just that epiphany moment of, you know, we both wear masks, it's his time to unmask, as he's trying to tell her, you know, not to sacrifice herself to kill Christopher Walken's character. And he tears it off, and it just... I love that scene, I really do. And I'm all for destroying costumes. You know, I had Action Men when I was younger. Priceless Action Men. I had the only black Action Man in the first generation of Action Men. Which probably sounds, you know, trivial to some people, but that thing's worth a lot of money. It was worth a lot of money at the time, because your dog, turns out Action Men retailers were pretty racist. So I had the only black guy. And did I keep him in good condition? Did I balls? I cut his camouflage trousers to show adversity. I painted blood on his face. You know, I had all sorts of stuff. Like, I even cut some of his fingers off to show that he'd been tortured. And you might be wondering, yes, I had a very strange childhood, but... like, there was a progression in his lifehood of him getting, you know, just gradually worse through the encounters and through the missions that I had him go on. And I had a lot of fun with that Action Man, which is, in my opinion, how toys are supposed to be enjoyed. But that dude is priceless and worth a lot of money, and now mine is worth nothing. Because he literally looks like Chuck Norris at the end of Mission in Action 7, or however many of those there've been. But this is a Predator room, guys. I tried a couple of interesting strategies here that didn't really work. This works every time, this first one. Kill the guy on the balcony, kill the guy down there after the glide. And what I tried is I put some bat toothpaste on this. Because I know that an armoured dude, that armoured dude there, he's going to walk around the other side of it. And I was hoping it was going to knock him out, but it doesn't. It only stuns him. Because the armoured fellas are assholes. I don't remember them being armoured in City or Asylum in the Predator moment, so this may be new, or my memory's just not as good as it could be. And the reason that is, you can't silently take them down from behind because they counter it. Yet you can do the inverted takedown, which seems strange. But my plan was detonate the wall, and in the ruckus, inverted takedown the guy that's below me, so I could take two guys down and there'd just be one guy left. And as you can see, knocked him down, inverted takedown on him. But the armoured fella gets back up, and it kind of, you know, screws it up a little bit. So now there's just two of them, and the armoured fella's running back to the dude I just took down, so it means I can then isolate this guy and kill him, or choke him at least. Oh, excuse me. And now that there's just one fella left, you're free to get an inverted takedown on the armoured guy. Oh, that's what I'm going to try and do anyway. But I think the Game of the Year edition of Arkham City has been mentioned or something on the rental service that I'm using, and I'm wondering if it's got the challenge maps as the other characters, because if it does, I think I'm going to pick it up. Mainly because I want to play as those other characters. I've played as them a little bit. I've played as Robin, and I've played as Nightwing on PC, and I enjoyed both of them. I thought they were really interesting because they played subtly different to Batman. And I'm interested in doing that. And I'm wondering if this game has any of that in the challenge arenas, because there's a section later on in the game, spoiler alert, where you get to play as the Joker, and you do a fight as the Joker, and I thought it was really fun. He felt so different to Batman, and every move he did, even his standard like hit animations, they were funny. He was pulling out his buzzer and shocking people and all sorts of weird stuff. I had a lot of fun playing as Joker, and you only get to do it once, so I'm hoping he has his own challenge room. But here is a very small room with a ton of dudes, so just be careful, because these are the rooms that really make the camera struggle, because the camera adjusts on its own sometimes. It rotates to keep up with the action. Sometimes it doesn't rotate in the best way. Sometimes you want to do it yourself, but anybody who's held a controller knows it can be quite difficult to manipulate a camera and press buttons at the same time. Unless you're good at using the claw technique, which I don't think that really comes... I don't think that'd give you too much of an advantage in this game so much. I do it a little bit, but I don't do it enough to warrant telling people to do it. But that is the end of Final Offer, guys. I will see you in the next video. As always, you take care now.